Good evening, good evening. Good evening, folks. Since I didn't do the stream today, I'm doing my evening video. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But I just wanted to say I feel like I have won something in adulting today. So, what am I talking about? So finally, after years and years and years, and thank you, streaming gods, for existing and actually making it affordable, I finally am able to afford the damn History Channel and its subsidiaries. I've been a History Channel nut since it first came out in the 90s. Yes, I watched Martin Marvels obsessively and I regret nothing, thank you. So, now, the other adulting goal is to get my damn rower machine. I have been trying to be able to afford getting that goddamn rower now for over 8 years. So that's next on my list. But whatever happens with the landlord, you know what? I still won at adulting today. So, fuck them, bite me. I don't know why I have a good feeling about things, but we'll see, right? Anyways, we're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, a few of the usual disclaimers. First off, folks, as always, you're going to see the link to this report right there in the description box, alongside the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, the templates, and the Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. Now, folks, this is a report from 1982. There's going to be some outdated, extremely ableist language in it. And also, as you know, when we talk about the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of, especially in this report, as well as catch clips of surveillance footage of peoples with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones, alright? Cool. God, hold on. I'm freaking dying here. Freaking Missouri, I tell you. One day you're freezing your butt off, the next thing you're freaking sweating buckets. True story. That's Missouri for you. But anyways, not the point. So it is 7:01 in the evening, folks. I may have not been working my normal job as it is my call center weekend, but if you want to ask if I'm brain dead due to stress, yes. Yes, I am. I very much am. So if I stumble over any of my words, my apologies in advance, alright? And don't forget, this is the co-host. Co-host demands attention and pets, as is his right. So, yeah, please excuse him too. Alright, folks, we're going to where we left off. So, that is going to be number 9. I think number 9. Yes. Respondent violated Standard 1A6 of the Draft Guidelines, page 19, in that on June 5, 1981, the facility was unable to produce a complete record on each individual, which was easily accessible by direct service staff, parents, and licensing officials. Respondent is in violation of Standard 1A7 of the Draft Guidelines, page 19, in that up to the time of service of this accusation, data were not taken on behaviors which are being positively reinforced in a fashion which would enable staff to see interrelationships, and that such data were not taken off enough or in a form compatible with the data used on Versets. See technical notes, page 19. Respondent is in violation of Standard 1B, 1B, C, D, and C of the Draft Guidelines, CPP 24 through 25, in that the facility was unable to document on June 5, 1981, and at the time of service of this accusation, is still unable to document that prior to the use of any adversive on any individual, the following factors are considered. Alright. Yes, Mr. Mew, I know it smells funny. There's valerian in it. It's my nighttime tea. What can I say? I'm stressed. I need assistance to sleep. The relative effectiveness of the available procedures for dealing with a given behavior. The undesirable long and short-term side effects that may be associated with a procedure for a particular individual. The conditions under which a specific procedure may be clinically contraindicated for a particular individual. The relative efficiency of a specific procedure chosen in terms of its duration, frequency, and staff requirements. Respondent is in violation of Standard IB2 of the Draft Guidelines, page 26, in that the facility was unable to document June 5, 1981, and at times the services of this accusation is still unable to document that prior to the use of adverse behavior interventions, a thorough multidisciplinary assessments of the individual takes place covering areas listed in draft guidelines. Respondent is in violation of Standard IC1 of the draft guidelines, page 30, in that the facility was unable to produce on June 5, 1981, and at the time of service of this accusation is still unable to produce the documentation of a multidisciplinary team's rationales for not using less restrictive alternatives for each individual upon whom adversives are used. Respondent violated Standard IC2 of the Draft Guidelines, page 47, in that the facility was unable to document on June 5, 1981, and the time of service of this accusation is still unable to document that the facility's interpretation of individuals' behavior as acceptable or unacceptable takes into account the individuals, the families, or the community's social, religious, and ethnic values. Of course they don't, people. Let me tell you a little something about ABA. Do you really think they give a damn about the culture the person comes from? A religious background? Any of it? Our native background? Any of it? No. Not any more than the rest of this goddamn world does. They want to turn us into vanilla, plain robot people who feel nothing, see nothing, and do nothing other than exactly what they tell us to do when they tell us to do it. To be good little disabled people. Okay? They don't care. People can sit there and tell me, but my ABA saved my child's life. You don't understand bullshit, okay? I may have not been put in ABA, but I had learned how to mask and imitate the others around me and do so to the point that it took me fucking years to figure out who the hell I actually was in all of this, okay? Why? Because me being myself was made very clear to me at an early age in a school system that it was never going to be fucking good enough. And that got more than reinforced on my ass when living with my aunt at the last couple of years of high school. Okay? Don't sit there and tell me that you all do not try to turn us into fucking robots to make yourselves feel better, because that is exactly what you do. And you can sit there and tell yourself that you can sleep well at night because you're not as bad as these bastards, but you're just as goddamn culpable. Any time you force an individual to be someone other than what they are, and tell them that they cannot be loved as who they are or valued as who they are, but instead they must mask and become someone else and take on someone else's traits in order to be accepted, you are just as guilty as these bastards, and you are perpetuating the same behaviors that create schools just like this. Just saying. Sorry for my rant. During the period from September the 3rd through December the 15th, 1980, and an unknown period of time before and after those dates, residents at BRI would be spanked or water squirted for moving their feet or putting their hands to their faces. During his residence at BRI, Blank was deaf and unable to speak. He indicated hunger, anger, and tiredness by crying. Spanks were administered for crying. In other words, he was unable to speak. He was unable to communicate because they provided no fucking reasonable accommodations to teach him sign language so he could communicate his needs. So he did it the only way he could, and then they punished him for it. Yeah. Sounds a lot like Linda Cornelison and how she died, doesn't it? During the period of November the 20th, 1978 through July 18th, 1980, responded administered adversive to Blank for toe walking, although it was caused by a medical problem, and his parents asked for the facility to ignore this behavior. On one occasion in October 1980, respondent was giving Blank a no for touching his face. The consequence was raised at that time without proper procedure to a water squirt. Thereafter, whenever Blank would wipe the water off his face, he would get squirted again. Oh, for fuck's sake. So for him having a natural reaction that any neurotypical would have, oh, we're going to make you pay again. Basically, they are programming these kids to not respond to the abuse, to just accept it. We've seen it time and time again. They are conditioning them to accept the abuse, to not talk out, to not complain, and to hide it from their parents. It's fucking sick. And it's still going on to this day. Respondent violated standard IC4 of the draft guidelines, page 55, that individual residents on June 5, 1981 lacked written program plans with provisions to teach individuals the circumstances under which problem behaviors can be exhibited appropriately or to replace maladaptive behaviors with adaptive or appropriate behaviors. Respondent is in violation of standard IC5A, B, D, F, and G of the draft guidelines, P 55 to 56, in that the facility was unable to produce on June 5, 1981, and at the time of service of this accusation is still unable to produce for each individual resident a behavior modification plan or program which specifies in writing. A. The targeted behavior stated in objective and quantitative terms. B. The behavioral objective or goal of the program, including the time frame. C. The schedule for the behavioral method. In other words, all the shit that never fucking works, because why in the name of God do we still think in this fucking age that you can treat a neurological disorder with a fucking psychiatric cure? It makes no sense. These are not willful behaviors. When will you freaking ABA bastards learn? When can we just be accepted as we are? Why are we not given alternatives instead of being forced to be other than who we are? Goddamn. The control or probe techniques determine the necessity for continuing intervention. E. The conditions under which the individual's specific plan or program is changed or modified. 18. That will be something we'll start going over tomorrow. Tonight was loaded. I do apologize for the rant, but I really don't. Because here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. All of this is born of applied behavior analysis. It is. And applied behavior analysis is this concept that they came up with back in the day, this idea that behavior modification can be used in order to treat autism, which is the stupidest idea I ever heard. You cannot use basically behavior control on someone whose behaviors are not willful. This is the idea of, oh, you can stop doing all these things if you just try hard enough. You just don't want to. You just want to be this way. My question is, first of all, what the fuck is wrong with being who I am? Because no one has ever been able to explain that to me. And these days, I'm just unapologetically who I am. And unless I have to go out in public, in which case I wear my mom's persona. We mesh well enough. Our personalities are enough alike, folks, that it kind of makes no difference. We don't give a fuck. Just saying. It works wonders. ABA is this concept, this idea. If you just try hard enough, you can be like everybody else. But as I got older, the idea occurred to me, exactly what is the appeal of being like everyone else? Have you met these people? You want to sit there and tell me they're not messed up? Because they are. Part of my diagnosis makes me an excellent observer of others. Have you seen these people? These so-called normal people? They're neurotic as hell. And they've got their own deep-seated issues. So how about I do me, and ABA people in the medical community can stop trying to sell me this concept of normal that doesn't exist, and stop torturing kids into becoming this idea of normal that doesn't exist in the real world. And on that idea, folks, I'm going to close out this evening. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this evening, and as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.